on the show today a good friend of mine that I've appeared on his show and his YouTube podcast. This is Crypto Rich. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you, David. Thank you so much for having me on. It's a delight to be here.
Oh, it's great to have you on the show. You've interviewed me a couple of times for your YouTube podcast, which is also on Odyssey as well. That's the main place people can watch you. And it's great. You talk a lot of sense about a lot of all the same issues that I'm concerned about, our viewers are concerned about: freedom, the financial system, and also the sort of what's going on with, wars in Ukraine and the Middle East and so as well. So it's great to have you on the show. But I know you are someone, and you want to talk about this today. You're someone who home educates your children, and you talk about the concept of unschooling. So, I mean, can you say what do you mean by unschooling?
So, unschooling is a term given to play-led education, which is led by the children. And it operates on the principle that as human beings, we are designed to learn. I didn't teach my children how to speak English. I didn't teach them how to walk. They just learned. And my children are now 19 and 16, and they've never been to school or nursery or kindergarten or anything like that. We had to reorganize our life. And essentially, what we did is we let our children play and play and play and play and play. And I am so jealous of their childhood, David. I am so jealous.
Well, I mean, in a way, that reminds me of the philosophy they use in Finland, and that's considered to be, a very highly esteemed education system, which has very good outcomes for the children. And their philosophy is for the first 7 years of their life, kids don't go to school; they just play. And that's it. And then they go to school at 7, but then they keep the same teacher all the way through from 7 right up till they're 18, the same, base form teacher. And so they have a continuing relationship with a key person, the teacher, for that whole time. And there's much more integration between what the school does there and what the parents do, much deeper relationship than you might have in this country, where they have one teacher, another one, different form teachers for 11 different years and so on. But what do you see as the difference between unschooling and home education, or is there a difference?
There is, I think, a school at home, I think, is done a lot by religious families because, they want their children to be familiar with, whatever faith
Mm.
that's in. In Britain, unschool, and I think that goes on a lot in the United States, school at home. But I'm
Mm.
not my kid's teacher, and I'm their dad, so it's not my role. Plus, one of the things I did many, many years ago is I found this study done by the Carnegie Institute where they took 1,500 8-year-old kids who weren't at school, matched them demographically with 1,500 8-year-olds who were at school, followed them until they were 15, and measured them on numeracy, literacy, social skills, emotional
Mm.
intelligence, all sorts of stuff. The kids that were home educated outperformed the school kids by up to 40%. But within the home educated cohort, the ones that did best of all were the ones that were unschooled. And I
Right.
was
I
like,
mean,
how come? So then I started examining it. And one of the things I looked at is the relationship between play and the size of a brain. All mammals and all birds play, but the bigger the brain relative to body size, the more time they spend playing. And nature, I don't think, wastes resources. There's a reason why we play. So what happened with my children, would say with my son, when he was 5 years old, he's playing shop. He's lining up his toys and he's giving me 2 pence or offering, I can buy his teddy bear for 2 pence and stuff.
mm.
And then when he was 11, he started a car wash business in our street. And my wife helped him make the flyers. He employed his sister and his sister's friend, 50 pence a car to clean the car, wash and clean cars. He was taking in 5 quid. And then later on, when he was 17, he was doing social media stuff for some crypto companies. And
Wow.
all along, it's for him, it's just play. He's just playing and playing and playing. But play develops commensurate with our age and our maturity. And there's nothing, I mean, you and I, David, we have a form of play, and whatever it is that we do, we love it. We absolutely love it. It's not work. And we absorb information through that process. So that's all we did. And I'm so jealous of my kids' childhood because they just played, played and played and played and played.
What was the difference between what they do and what you did? Did you go to a school, like a formal school where you were rigorously drilled in a classroom and didn't enjoy it as much as what you see your kids having in their experiences?
Yeah. Well, I went to school. I went to school in London. I had a great time at school. I really enjoyed it. I misbehaved loads. I did okay with my O levels. I have no A levels because I messed about too much and I was no good at exams, but I had a really, really great time. But however, if I look at what my children have had, their childhoods and what they've come out with, my 19-year-old's got three A levels. He decided to go to college. I tried to talk him out of it. And in that way, it had to come from within. He was like, no, 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 I want to go. I want to go. Right. Well, if you're
Mm,
going to go, you better study because we're paying for your exams. There's no financial support for home
mm,
educating families. So that was the difference. But I'd have much rather have done what he did because I spent so many hours at school engaged in subjects that I had no interest in.
mm,
Whereas my children, they're learning about life. My son knows about how finance works. He knows about the difference between gold and silver and Bitcoin and fiat currencies and how they come to pass. And he
mm,
learned mathematics by counting his Lego pieces and by playing Monopoly and cash flow. The first book that he decided that he wanted to read to learn how to read when he decided, he said, I'm 8 years old. When he was 8 years old, I want to learn how to read. I want to learn how to read. His mum said, okay, well, speak to one of your dad's friends who's a teacher. He called up my teacher friend. I want to learn how to read. The teacher friend said, make a timetable every day, choose a book you love, practice with your parents. So 3 weeks, 15 minutes a day. By the end of that, I've never had to give him a lesson. That's all it took. And the book he chose was Rudyard Kipling's original Jungle Book because I'd read it
amazing.
to him twice and we loved it. It's such a great book.
It's a fantastic book. Look, Crypto Rich, don't go away. We're going to have a quick news break for a minute at the bottom of the hour, but we'll be back in a minute to talk about more about home education and finance as well. This is today's News Talk, TNT. We're talking about home education on the show today. And to continue the conversation, I have with me Crypto Rich. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you, David.
No, good to have you back on the show. Now, you were just mentioning, some great things and great experiences your kids have had with home education, and I think this is something we've spoken about before on the show here, and other people on TNT have mentioned as well. But how can parents go about letting their children be unschooled or home educated in the UK?
Okay, it's very, very simple right now. Thank goodness. The law recognizes that children belong with the family and with their parents. So the
Mm,
law is in England and Wales, Education Act, I think it's section 7, not quite sure, right? But the exact section, but it says it's the parents' duty either to register to educate their children either by regular attendance at school or otherwise. So I did it otherwise.
mm,
And because my children were never in school, school is not mandatory, not compulsory. Education is. Because my children never went to nursery, we never admitted them, we never engaged, contracted with the schools. That's absolutely fine and legal. If my children had gone to school and I want to take them out because of whatever reason, including objections to the trans agenda and the sexualization of
mm.
children that's rolling out in schools, then all I need to do is send an email or a registered letter to say to the school, please take my child off the register as of this date. And I need to give no notice. It can be the same day that they receive that email.
Mm,
And I don't need to say why. That's in England and Wales. In Scotland, if a child has already been um, registered in school, is already in school, then I think you need the local authority or the school's permission. But if they've never started school, you don't. So slightly different. And people might want to check out Schoolhouse
Mm.
which is an organization that supports home educators in Scotland to get support there in England and Wales, educationotherwise.org.
That is a fantastic thing, and that is really important that people know that there is no compulsion to send your children to school like there is in some other countries. I mean, Germany, for example, it has a Schulpflicht. That's the word, German word. It means compulsory schooling. You have to send your kids to school. I think France is the same, and if you keep your kids at home, the state comes
David,
after you.
yeah, David, it's a
Yeah.
little bit in France, it is possible. It's difficult. In Sweden, it's possible, very, very difficult. In Germany, it's completely banned because there was a particular leader in the mid-30s who didn't
Mm,
want anybody to escape the influence of his youth movement, which is why Hitler banned home education completely. So I think
mm.
that says something about what schooling really is about. It serves the interests of the state, which is why, the British exported it to their colonies to teach their subjects. We are your lords and masters. Do as we say. Don't listen to your
Mm.
parents. Don't follow our gods. Follow our gods. So they used it as a weapon of empire, in my
But
opinion.
now, as you say, I mean, it's not even so much, it's worse than that. It's not even teaching children that Britain is a wonderful country, it's the best country in the world. No, I think it is a great country, and we have a lot to be proud of. But there are some black points as well. We can learn all about those. We can have a balance. But nowadays, there are things that are completely degenerate that the school system wants to inculcate into our children. And you started, touched on the trans agenda, and there's also the climate agenda, and then there's the critical race theory, and there's all the globalism agenda, and actually they want children to hate this country and to almost erode any kind of sense of belonging to this nation, so people will see themselves as wider citizens of the world, but they will be completely atomized but not have a connection to their own nation. What I mean, how do you see the
I,
school
I
system? Is there any good in it
think,
at all or not?
I think, well, 19 years ago, when my first son was born and I was doing all this research, what I came to was the only thing that's good about school is that it's readily available daycare.
Mm,
I don't think it's great daycare. I'd rather my sister-in-law or my brother looked after my children rather than the school system, right? It's just readily available daycare.
yeah.
Now I think it's much worse. I work as a child protection social worker, and I see the stuff that's rolling out in schools in Scotland with the sexualization agenda, with the trans agenda, and also hating people, promoting this idea that somehow if you're white, you're less than another. No, wait a minute. That's not
Mm,
um what Martin Luther King stood for, honoring all people. So destroying the culture and the heritage of this nation. The things about the UK I don't like, but that's not, you don't want to throw the whole baby out with the bathwater and inculcating this hatred of the other, of white people. And then also the thing about the transgender and the sexualization of children, it's so harmful. It's so harmful. It destroys a person's sense of themselves. If I'm so
mm.
confused and so messed up that I don't even know if I'm a boy or a girl, well, I'm really easy to manipulate in every other regard. So I think it's
It
extremely,
is.
extremely dangerous. So it becomes even more important for parents to do what it takes. There's nothing more valuable for me in my life than my children. So we had to be a single income family in order to be able to home educate, especially when they were young, because one of us needed to be at home. But there's a growing movement of parents who are like, no, wait a minute, these children belong to me. I'm going to have a say in how they're brought up. No one's going to love and care for them more than me. And the schools certainly aren't going to do that. So there's
This
a
is
lot of
also
available.
taking your power back as parents, because the idea that the parents are primary educators of your children, that you're primarily responsible for your children, is being completely undermined by the state, without us even realizing it. But this comes straight from the Communist Manifesto, to be frank. It's one of the things in there that they want to destroy the concept of family, and children will be brought up by the state or agents of the state. And this is it's basically communism, but we need to get back to that, you know, life, this wholesome life where we recognize that children are part of families, families make up communities, communities make up the nation, and the nation, the state, the government should not be interfering with our lives and micromanaging our lives at every possible level. I've got a couple of really good comments. Your interview here, Crypto Rich, you found some fans, I think. Here, Bianca Eleanor says, unschooling is a very large umbrella term that is often smeared. There's so many great books on home education and unschooling. I can send you a list. That's to me, not you. I think you probably know all the books. You know all about it, but I'm learning. Marie Lowe says, this is fab. I wish I knew this when my son was young. So that's great. So a lot of positive feedback to your appearance here, Crypto Rich. And I recommend everybody to do what you've done. Is there anyone, just before we go, where can people find out more about you and watch your show? Because I know you do a lot of great shows on a lot of topics, not just unschooling, but many other things as well. What's your where are you on media?
Well, probably the best places, two best places is Twitter, which is CryptoRichYT, and then also on Odyssey, bit.ly/CryptoRichOdyssey, which will take you to my Odyssey channel. And what I cover macro politics, I cover some of the freedom issues, I cover health, I cover the harm that the injections did and COVID issues and the Great Reset, a little bit of home education, and also a bit on gold, silver, and crypto. And David, I got to say, you know, you and I first met on a pro-freedom demo in London. And one of the things that
Yeah.
I really, it was just so refreshing to see someone who's a leader of a party putting their money where their mouth is and just walking along,
Mm.
supporting freedom, that people should have a right to make a determination over their own lives.
Yeah.
So great to be with you,
Thank
David.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Really good to meet you then, and really good to have you on the show today. And hopefully you'll come on again sometime because there's so many things we could talk about.